The billionaire's son lived in silence until the housekeeper discovered something that changed him. Before we begin, tell us in the comments, from which city are you watching? And at the end, don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story. Emily Carter had 3 rules for her first day on the job. Do not trip, do not talk to yourself, and for heaven's sake, do not break anything. She broke all 3 in less than 2 minutes. The Sheffield mansion was the kind of place that seemed to say, "You do not belong here," just through its architecture. Marble columns, windows the size of cars, and an entryway rug that probably charged by the step. And it was exactly on that rug that her foot decided to betray its owner. The stumble was almost cinematic. Emily lurched forward, the box of cleaning supplies flew out of her hands, and what happened next could only be described as a domino effect of chaos. The cleaning spray hit the floor first, then the detergent, then the cloths, then the bucket, which rolled dramatically until it hit the wall with an accusing plunk. Emily stood in the middle of the disaster, taking a deep breath. Then she looked at the rug. "You waited until I was carrying 15 things. Strategist." The rug, of course, did not answer. "No, it's fine." Emily crouched to pick up the supplies. "I understand. I stepped on you with confidence. It was disrespectful. I apologize." She reached under an absurdly expensive side table for the cleaning spray that had rolled away. "And you," she pointed at the spray, "you abandoned me. We were a team." That was the moment Emily felt it, that sensation of being watched. She slowly lifted her eyes, and there he was, at the top of the marble staircase, standing like a statue in a suit. Noah Sheffield. The man looked exactly like the photos in business newspapers. If photos could capture the ability to make someone feel like an ant trespassing in a castle. Sharp jaw, dark eyes, the posture of someone who had never tripped in his life. He said nothing. He just looked at Emily. Then at the scattered supplies, then at Emily again. The silence lasted an eternity. Emily stood, trying to recover whatever professional dignity was left. "Mr. Sheffield, hello, I'm Emily Carter, the new..." She accidentally kicked the bucket, which rolled another few feet. "The new cleaning professional. Nice to meet you." Noah stayed silent. Emily cleared her throat. "This is not the standard. I'm usually very competent. Very, extremely. It's just that the rug..." She glanced at it, then back at Noah. It was an ambush. Noah stepped down one stair, then another, each step echoing through the hall like judgment. The rug. His voice was deep, controlled, completely without emotion. "It was," Emily confirmed, because at this point, what was the use of lying? "It got me first." Noah reached the bottom step and stopped. His eyes scanned Emily as if she were a quarterly report that had disappointed him. "The agency said you were qualified." "I am. Very qualified. Look, I have references, certificates. I know how to use every type of..." The cleaning spray chose that moment to roll and hit Noah's shoe. Emily closed her eyes. "It's also against me today." When she opened them again, she expected to see irritation on the billionaire's face. Anger, maybe. Immediate regret for hiring her. But what she saw was nothing. His face was a perfect mask of indifference. "Only one rule, Miss Carter." Emily swallows. "Yes, anything." Silence. The word fell between them like a mist. "This house needs silence," Noah continued. "My son needs silence. Can you do your job without noise?" Emily nodded quickly. "Absolutely. Silence is my middle name. Emily Silence Carter. I'm practically a cleaning ninja. You won't even know I..." The bucket clattered loudly behind her. Emily didn't even look. Exist, from now on. Total silence. Noah stood there for 3 more seconds. 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Then he turned and walked back up the stairs. "Margaret will show you your duties." And he left, without another word. Emily exhaled, not even realizing she had been holding her breath. "Warm," she muttered to herself. "Very warm." She knelt again to finish picking up the mess, speaking softly. "All right. Supplies. Emergency meeting. You all embarrassed me in front of the most intimidating man I've ever seen. We will have a serious conversation about loyalty later." She was shoving the detergent back into the box when she noticed it. Someone was there. It wasn't Noah. She had heard his steps disappear upstairs. It wasn't a staff member. She hadn't heard anyone approach. Emily slowly turned her head, and she saw him. A little boy. He was standing in the corner of the hallway, but half hidden behind a pillar. 6 years old, maybe. Messy brown hair, eyes too big for his face, and an expression Emily could not figure out. It was not fear. It was not normal curiosity. It was as if he was waiting for something, without knowing exactly what. "Hi," Emily said softly, trying not to scare him. The boy did not answer. "You're Benji, right? I'm Emily. I'll be working here." Nothing. Not even a different blink. Emily was about to say something else when the cleaning spray that trader rolled out of the box and hit the floor with a sad little plop. And then something strange happened. The boy reacted. Not much, almost nothing. But his eyes moved toward the sound, his head tilted a little, as if that tiny noise was more interesting than anything she had said. Emily frowned. "You like that sound?" Benji did not answer, but he also did not leave. He stayed there, standing, looking at her with those huge eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 things he could not say. A voice cut through the moment. "Benji." It was Noah, from the top of the stairs. His voice was firm, but there was something underneath it. Something Emily could not identify. "Go back to your room." The boy did not look at his father. He did not move right away. He kept looking at Emily for 2 more seconds. Then he turned and walked down the hallway, his little steps so quiet they barely made a sound on the marble. Emily stood there, holding the cleaning spray, feeling like she had just witnessed something important, something she did not understand yet. She looked at the spray in her hand. "Did you see that?" The spray did not answer. "Yeah. I don't know what that was either." She put the spray back in the box, finally organized everything, and stood up. The mansion was huge, quiet, cold, but for some reason, Emily could not get that little boy's eyes out of her mind, and the way he reacted to a sound, and the way he did not react to any of her words. "Okay, Emily," she murmured to herself as she walked in the direction the employee had pointed. First day. Billionaire's house. Strange child. Boss who looks like an angry statue. Everything is fine. Everything is completely fine. She tripped on the rug again. "You have got to be kidding me." The rug stayed in victorious silence, and at the end of the hallway, hidden behind a half-open door, a 6-year-old boy watched everything. He did not smile. Not exactly. But something in his eyes changed. Just a little. As if, for the first time in a long while, he had found something worth watching. 2 hours later, Emily was back in the hallway. That hallway. The one with the deadly rug. This time she was prepared. Gray uniform that smelled like mothballs, cleaning cart that creaked like a restless soul, and an unshakable determination not to trip again. She looked at the rug. The rug looked back. "Can we make peace?" Emily whispered. "Look, I know I started off on the wrong foot, but now I'm in uniform. Professional, respectful." The rug remained in threatening silence. "I'll take that as a yes." Emily pushed the cart forward carefully, as if she were crossing a minefield. The broom, which she had already mentally named Nancy, swung from the side hook with an accusatory squeak. "Nancy, please stop making me look unprepared in front of the handsome man." The broom squeaked louder. "Intimidating man. I meant intimidating. He isn't handsome, he is frightening. Like a well-sculpted marble statue that judges your life choices." Emily started cleaning, humming a little tune she had heard on the radio that morning. Something about new beginnings and second chances. She always hummed while she cleaned. It helped the time pass, and honestly, the complete silence of the mansion was starting to weigh on her ears. That was why she did not hear the little footsteps approaching. "And Nancy here thinks I should use more cleaning product, but I told her that." Emily turned around and came face to face with Benji. For the Benji, she put her hand on her chest, her heart racing. "A bell. You need a bell, or a horn, or I don't know, shoes that make noise." The boy stood less than a yard from her, those huge eyes fixed on her face. He had not moved when she yelled. He had not stepped back. He just watched. Emily took a deep breath, trying to pull herself together. "Hi, Benji. Sorry for the yelling. You scared me." She crouched down, meeting his eye level. "Are you okay?" Nothing. The boy kept looking at her with that expression that wasn't exactly empty, but wasn't full of anything familiar either. Emily tried again. "Do you want to help me clean? I have an extra cloth here, and—" Benji took a step back. "Ah, no. It's fine." Emily slowly raised her hands. "No pressure. You can just stay there if you want. I'll go back to work." She turned to the cart, grabbed the cloth, and went back to cleaning the stair railing. After a few seconds, she started humming again. Softly, almost without noticing, from the corner of her eye she saw it. Benji took a step forward. Emily kept cleaning, pretending not to notice. Her heart picked up a little, not from fear this time, but from something close to hope. She hummed louder, let out a small whistle between notes. Another step. "Nancy," Emily murmured to the broom, "I think we have an audience." Benji was now half a meter from her, watching the movement of the cloth on the railing. His eyes followed every stroke, every circle she made on the wood. Emily took a chance. "You know, Nancy doesn't like me. I think she thinks I'm unqualified." She looked at the broom with exaggerated seriousness. "But I told her, Nancy, we're a team. We need cooperation." She could swear something changed on Benji's face. Not a smile, but something in his eyes. A spark of interest. And then a voice cut through the moment like a blade. "Miss Carter." Emily stood up so fast she hit her elbow on the cart. Noah was at the top of the stairs, his posture as rigid as the first time. His eyes went straight to Benji, then to Emily. "Benji needs space." "I didn't do anything," Emily said too quickly. "He just showed up and I was cleaning and—" Space. The word came out as a final order. Noah walked down 2 steps and held out his hand to his son. "Come on, Benji. Time for lunch." The boy looked at his father's hand. He didn't take it, but he started walking toward him, silent as always. Emily stayed still, holding the cloth like an useless shield. Benji walked past his father and disappeared down the hall. Noah stayed 3 more seconds staring at Emily. He didn't say anything else. He just turned and followed his son. Emily let out a breath. "Nancy, we were canceled." The broom fell from the hook and hit the floor with a loud bang. "Whose side are you on, Nancy? 'Cause that did not look like mine." Emily picked the broom back up, put it on the cart, and pushed the whole thing toward the next room. Margaret had given her a task list the size of a will, and Emily was determined to prove she could do the job without creating more chaos. That determination lasted until she reached the automatic door of the east wing. Emily walked up to it with confidence. The door didn't open. She stopped, waiting. Nothing. "Hello?" Emily waved at the sensor. "Anyone there?" The door stayed shut. "Okay, maybe I'm too far." She took a step forward, then another. She stood inches from the door. "Open?" Nothing. Emily started dancing in front of the sensor, ridiculous arm movements she hoped no one was watching. The door stayed stubbornly closed. "You know what? Forget it. I didn't even want to go through you." Emily turned around, ready to find another route. The door opened and hit her with enough force to make her stumble forward. "That was personal." Emily turned, pointing at the door. You waited until I turned around." The door closed slowly, as if pleased with itself. "We don't have to be enemies. Think about it." Emily walked through the door, which opened normally this time, the traitor, and entered the east wing. The cart creaked behind her, like the soundtrack of a horror movie. "Cart, you too? Are you going to betray me too?" The cart creaked louder. That was when Emily heard the voice. "You talk to doors?" Emily froze. She turned slowly, and came face to face with the most perfectly put-together woman she had ever seen. Impeccable blonde hair, clothes that probably cost 3 months of Emily's rent, and an expression that managed to be condescending and amused at the same time. "She started it," Emily answered, because at this point, what was the use of pretending to be normal? The woman tilted her head, her eyes taking in Emily from head to toe. "You are the new cleaning girl?" "Cleaning professional," Emily corrected automatically. "Emily Carter, Cora Sheffield." The woman did not offer her hand. "Noah's cousin." "Oh, nice. Pleasure." Cora gave a small, sharp smile. Noah mentioned he had hired someone new. He didn't mention she would be entertaining. Something in her tone made Emily frown. It wasn't a compliment. It was the kind of observation wrapped in silk but full of thorns underneath. "I do what I can," Emily said, trying to keep her tone light. Cora looked at the cart, at the broom, then back at Emily. "I'm sure you do." She stepped back. "Well, don't let me get in your way. It seems you and your objects have work to do." And she walked away, her heels echoing on the marble with military precision. Emily stood still for a moment, processing. "Nancy, that woman did not like me." The broom remained diplomatically silent. Emily went back to work, but she could not shake the way Cora had looked at her, as if Emily were a stain on a surface that needed to be cleaned. She was so distracted she almost missed it. The little boy at the end of the hallway. Benji was there again, half hidden behind a pillar. And this time, Emily was sure. He had seen the scene at the door, and he had brought his hand to his mouth. Almost laughing, Emily could not explain it. But something about that boy called to her. The way he reacted to noises, but not to words. The way he watched everything with those eyes that seemed to hold too many secrets for a 6-year-old child. And for the first time in a long time, she was not going to give up on someone, even if that meant facing murderous rugs, vengeful doors, and a billionaire who seemed carved from ice. Emily looked at Benji. Benji looked back. And then he did something that made Emily's heart jump. He tapped lightly on the wall, on purpose. Tap, tap, waiting to see what she would do. Emily looked at the wall where Benji had tapped, then she looked at him, and then, slowly, she raised her hand and tapped back. Tap, tap, tap. Benji's eyes widened, just a little, but enough. He did not smile, he did not wave, but he also did not run away. And to Emily, that was already everything. She tapped again, louder this time. Tap, tap, tap. Benji stepped forward. His fingers went to the wall, hesitant, as if he were testing whether it was real. And then he tapped back. Tap. Emily's heart jumped. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but instinct stopped her. No. No words. Not yet. She tapped 3 times, waited. Benji tapped twice. Emily tapped once, long. Tap. Benji tilted his head, and then did the same. Tap. They stayed like that for a few more seconds, communicating in improvised Morse code, until footsteps echoed in the hallway above. Benji froze, looked up, and then disappeared as silently as he had arrived. Emily stood there, her hands still in the air. "Nancy," she whispered to the broom, "I think we just had a conversation." 3 days later, Emily realized what was wrong with that house. There was no sound at all. She was cleaning the library, a room the size of her entire apartment, when she stopped in the middle of a wipe and simply listened. Nothing. No background music. No television on in some distant room. No children's laughter. No conversations. The Sheffield mansion was a marble mausoleum of silence. Emily frowned and went back to work, but the thought stuck to her like gum on a shoe. She spent the rest of the morning paying attention. Every hallway she cleaned, every room she organized, all wrapped in a silence so heavy she could hear her own breathing. When she found Margaret in the kitchen, she could not hold it in. "Is it always like this?" Emily asked, placing the tray of cleaning supplies on the counter. "Like what?" Margaret did not even lift her eyes from the shopping list she was writing. "Like this, quiet. It feels like the house is in mourning." Margaret stopped writing, looked at Emily with that expression that clearly said, "You are new here, so I will forgive that question." "Orders from Mr. Sheffield. Benji needs calm." Emily processed that for a second. "Calm or a vacuum? Because this place feels like an abandoned aquarium." Margaret's eyes widened. Emily realized it too late. "I said that out loud, didn't I?" "You did." "Oh." Margaret sighed and went back to the list, but Emily swore she saw the ghost of a smile at the corner of her mouth. "Just keep your tone low, Miss Carter. Mr. Sheffield is particular about the environment in the house." "Understood." Emily picked up the tray again. Low tone. Sepulchral silence, no signs of life. "Miss Carter, I am going. Emily left the kitchen, but the discomfort stayed. She climbed the stairs back to the east wing, pushing the cart that squeaked as always, and she could not stop thinking. A 6-year-old living in complete silence, no music, no noise, noise. "This is not right," she murmured to Nancy. "Children need noise, chaos, you know, cartoons at 7 in the morning. Nancy remained diplomatically silent. Emily stopped in the middle of the hallway, looked one way, then the other. No sign of Noah, no sign of Cora, no sign of anyone. And then she did something that would probably cost her job. She started to sing, soft at first, just a gentle hum as she wiped the railing. "Cleaning the grumpy man's mansion, la la la." Nothing happened. No alarm went off. No furious billionaire appeared to fire her. Emily sang a little louder. "He frowns at me, but he doesn't scare me, la la la." Still nothing. She started whistling, then made a pew-pew sound while pretending to shoot invisible enemies with her cleaning cloth. That was when she felt it. That quiet presence. Emily turned slowly. Benji was there. Again, 3 meters away, his big eyes fixed on her face. "Seriously, kid, 3rd time today." Emily put a hand on her chest. "Little ghost?" Benji didn't move, but he didn't run away either. Emily went back to work, humming again, softer this time. Something about stars and nights and dreams. She didn't know if she was making it up or if it was a real song, but it didn't matter. From the corner of her eye, she saw it. Benji took one step forward. Emily made a silly sound with her mouth, something between a bloop and a beep, while she wiped the floor. Benji's lips moved, almost a smile. "Miss Carter." Emily turned so fast the cloth flew out of her hand and landed on Nancy's head. Noah was at the top of the staircase. Rigid posture, unreadable expression, adjusting his watch nervously. The only sign he was, in fact, human. "Mr. Sheffield." Emily straightened up, trying to look professional. "Good morning. What are you doing? Cleaning?" With noise. Emily blinked. "It's a side effect of existing, sir." Noah's eyes went to Benji, who had frozen in place, then back to Emily. He walked down 2 steps, his jaw tight. "Less noise." "Understood." Noah stood there for 3 more seconds, those 3 seconds that felt like an eternity, then turned and left. Benji followed him, silent as always. Emily waited until she was sure they were gone, then looked at Nancy. "Nancy, he argues with happiness, doesn't he?" The broom fell off the cart. "We had a deal, Nancy. Cooperation." Emily spent the rest of the day working in silence, or at least trying to. But every time she caught herself humming or whistling, she forced herself to stop. "Orders for Mr. Sheffield." She finished at 6 in the evening, put the cart away, said goodbye to Margaret, and left through the back door. The bus that would take her back to the tiny apartment downtown was late, as always, and Emily spent the 20-minute wait thinking about huge brown eyes and a house that was far too quiet. When she finally got home, she tossed her bag on the couch, took a shower, and fell onto the bed. But sleep didn't come easily, because she couldn't stop thinking about Benji. About the way he came closer when she sang, about the way he had almost smiled, and about the way Noah had ordered silence as if noise were poison. Something was not right. Emily turned to her side, pulled the blanket up to her chin, and promised herself that the next day she would find out what had happened in that house. Why a 6-year-old boy lived in silence. Why a father seemed afraid of joy. She didn't know it yet, but that same night, something changed in the Sheffield mansion. Small footsteps echoed through the marble halls. Benji had left his room for the first time in weeks, and he was walking toward the hallway Emily had just cleaned. The hallway where she had sung. Emily was scrubbing the baseboard in the east corridor when she felt it. It wasn't a sound, it was a presence. Small, quiet, exactly 3 steps away. She looked over her shoulder. Benji was there, hands in his pockets, big eyes fixed on her, standing like someone who had appeared by magic. "Good morning to you too," Emily said, returning to her work. "I see you decided to haunt me today." Benji didn't answer, but he didn't leave either. Emily wiped another stretch of baseboard, stopped, looked again. Benji had moved, still 3 steps away. "Are you following me?" Nothing. Emily stood up, picked up the bucket, and walked 5 steps to the left. Benji walked 5 steps to the left. Emily walked 3 steps to the right. Benji walked 3 steps to the right. "Benji, are you my shadow now? Because I accept that. But I need to know if it comes with employee benefits." Benji's lips curved. Almost a smile. Warmth spread across Emily's chest. She went back to work, but this time she spoke while cleaning. "So, Nancy," she said to the broom, "what do you think? Are we giving the baseboard a chance today, or are we going to sabotage my life again?" Silence. Great. Cooperation. Finally. Emily made a dramatic gesture with the broom as if fighting an invisible enemy. "En garde, dirty baseboard." From the corner of her eye she saw it. Benji had raised his hand, imitating her gesture, small, hesitant, but imitating. Emily's heart jumped, but she did not let it show. She kept cleaning, kept moving her hands, kept talking nonsense to the objects, and Benji kept copying her. 20 minutes later, Emily was in the middle of a heated argument with the bucket when she felt another presence. This one was different, taller, firmer, more intimidating. She turned. Noah was standing at the end of the hallway. Perfect suit, executive posture. But his eyes were fixed on Benji, and there was something there. Something Emily could not name. It was not anger. It was not disapproval. It was almost softness. "Mr. Sheffield," Emily said, standing up straight, "good morning." Noah blinked as if he had just realized she was there. His jaw tightened. His expression returned to its usual state, cold, controlled, unreadable. "Miss Carter, I can explain. There is no need." He adjusted his watch. That nervous tick again. Continue your work. Then he left. But not before looking at Benji one more time. Not before Emily saw that brief shadow of an expression that might have been a smile. Emily looked at Benji. Your father is unusual. Benji tilted his head as if considering it. Then he made a small gesture with his hand that Emily interpreted as, I completely agree. The rest of the morning passed in a strange but comforting rhythm. Emily cleaned. Benji followed. She talked to objects. He watched. Sometimes he imitated her. Sometimes he simply stayed there, a silent presence that somehow did not feel silent at all. Emily was so focused that at first she barely heard the heels echoing down the hallway. Barely. She turned just in time to see Cora appear, as impeccable as always with that smile that never reached her eyes. Miss Carter. Her voice was honey with arsenic. I see you have gained a shadow. Emily placed the broom back in the cart. Good morning, Miss Sheffield. Cora looked at Benji, then at Emily, then back at Benji. You are creating dependence in him. Emily took a slow breath, counted to 3. I am cleaning, he is walking, coincidence. This is not healthy for a child with his conditions. Cora stepped forward, lowering her voice into that tone people use when they want to sound concerned, but are only being controlling. Benji needs structure, routine, not entertainment. Emily opened her mouth to respond, probably with something that would cost her job, but she never got the chance, because Benji moved. 3 steps forward, straight to Emily, and then he did something that made time stop. He held her hand. His small, warm hand wrapped around Emily's fingers as if she were an anchor in a stormy ocean. Emily looked down, into those big eyes staring up at her, at their fingers intertwined. She did not move. She did not speak. She just held his hand back. Cora was speechless. For 3 full seconds, her perfect mask slipped, and Emily saw pure anger. But then she recovered, the smile returning to her face like a curtain being pulled down. How sweet. The word came out twisted. Well, do not let me interrupt. She turned and walked away, her heels striking the marble louder than necessary. And then it happened. The rug. The same murderous rug that had tripped Emily on her first day. Cora stepped on it. Her heel caught. She stumbled, her arms flailing in a very ungraceful motion, and let out a sharp little scream that echoed down the hallway. She caught herself at the last second, straightened quickly, and looked around with wide eyes to see if anyone had seen. Emily had seen. She said nothing. She did not laugh. She simply looked at the rug and whispered, "Good boy." Cora left the hallway as fast as her heels allowed. Emily looked down. Benji was still holding her hand, and when she gently squeezed his fingers, she could swear she saw the corners of his mouth lift. "I see you, kid," she whispered. "I see you." From the office on the 2nd floor, Noah had seen everything. The way Benji had walked toward Emily, the way he held her hand, the way he stood there, rooted in place, as if she were the only solid thing in a world that would not stop shaking. Noah leaned against the window, his hand gripping the ledge hard enough to hurt. Benji did not touch anyone. Not since the accident. Not since Sarah had. He closed his eyes, pushing the memory back into the place where he kept everything he could not face. But when he opened his eyes again, the scene was still there, his son, holding the hand of the clumsy housekeeper who talked to objects and brought chaos wherever she went. And for the first time in 2 years, Noah did not know what to do, because part of him wanted to walk down those stairs and take Benji away from there. Protect him, keep him safe inside the bubble of silence and control Noah had built so carefully. But the other part, the part he had buried along with Sarah, wanted to let it happen, wanted to see where it would go, wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, that chaotic woman with a broom named Nancy could do what doctors, therapists, and 2 years of strict structure had not been able to do. Bring his son back. Emily discovered that yellow cleaning gloves had personality. The one on her right hand was clearly more dramatic than the one on her left. She raised the glove toward the light coming from the window in the west hallway, studying it with scientific seriousness. "You need a name," she said to the glove. "How about Larry?" The glove did not answer, but Emily could swear the rubber fingers agreed. She slid her hand inside it, flexed her fingers a few times, and then made Larry give a small bow. "Nice to meet you, Larry. I'm Emily. We are going to have a productive work relationship." That was when she felt it. That small, silent presence that had become part of her routine over the last 3 days. Emily turned. Benji was there. 3 steps away as always. Hands in his pockets, huge eyes fixed on Larry. "Good morning, Shadow," Emily said, turning fully toward him. "This is Larry. Larry, say hi to Benji." She made Larry wave. "Hi, little human," Emily said in a high, slightly ridiculous voice that definitely belonged to Larry and not to her. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Benji tilted his head. His eyes moved from Larry to Emily, then back to Larry. Emily made Larry walk through the air, the rubber fingers moving like clumsy little legs. "I'm a glove, but I have dreams. Big dreams. Cleaning the whole house without slipping on soapy water." She made Larry take 3 dramatic steps through the air. "Look, Benji, I'm doing it. Emily made Larry trip, the glove twisted in the air, the rubber fingers flailing in manufactured panic. "Larry, no!" Larry fell in slow motion, with Emily making dramatic falling sounds. The glove landed on the floor in a sad pile of yellow rubber, and then it happened. Benji laughed. It was not a smile. It was not a quiet sound. It was a laugh. Small, rough, as if he had forgotten how to do it and was learning again in real time. Emily froze. The entire world froze, because that sound, that tiny, imperfect sound, was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard. "Benji," she whispered, still crouched on the floor with Larry in her hand, "you just laughed." Benji put his hand over his mouth, his eyes wide, as if even he was surprised by what had just come out of him. Emily felt her eyes burn. She blinked fast, forcing the smile to stay on her face. "Hey, don't stop now. Larry still has an entire career ahead of him." She made Larry stand up dramatically, shaking his rubber head. "I'm fine. I only hurt my pride." Another sound. Smaller this time, but still there, still real. Emily kept going, made Larry dance, made Larry argue with Nancy, made Larry try to climb the cleaning cart and fail miserably. And Benji laughed. Not a lot, not loud, but enough to make Emily's heart feel 3 sizes bigger. She was so focused on Benji that she almost didn't notice the other presence. But then she felt it. That change in the air that meant someone was watching. Emily looked at the doorway. Noah was there, standing, still, as if he had been turned to stone in the middle of a step. His eyes were fixed on Benji, and there was something in that look that made Emily's stomach twist. It was not anger, it was not disapproval, it was pain, pure raw pain he was trying and failing to hide. Noah's eyes were shining, wet. He blinked once, twice, 3 times, his jaw so tight Emily could see the muscle pulsing. And then he turned and left, without saying anything, without making a sound. He just left. Emily stayed there, Larry still in her hand, her heart beating strangely in her chest. "Your father is complicated," she said to Benji softly. Benji looked at the empty doorway, and then back at Larry. Emily took a deep breath. "All right, one more time, but this time Larry will try to do a backflip." 2 hours later, Emily was scrubbing the stair railing when she heard the heels. She didn't even need to look to know who it was. "Miss Carter." Cora's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "May I speak with you?" Emily put the cloth back in the bucket. "Of course." Cora stepped down 3 more stairs, stopping in a position that left her technically taller than Emily. Visual power. Classic. "I saw what you did today, with Benji. I was working. He showed up. You were performing a show with a cleaning glove. Larry is more than that." Cora's eyes narrowed. "That is not funny. It wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be effective, and it was." "Effective?" Cora stepped forward. "You think encouraging a traumatized child with games is treatment?" Emily felt anger rising in her throat. She swallowed it, counted to 3. "I'm not treating anyone. I'm just existing." And he responded. "He needs professionals, therapists, structure, not a cleaning girl putting on a puppet show." He laughed, Miss Sheffield. Emily stood up, meeting Cora's eyes directly. "When was the last time you saw him laugh?" Something crossed Cora's face. Something quick and unpleasant that she hid behind her perfect smile. "You don't understand his situation. You don't understand what happened to this family." "Then explain it to me." "It's none of your business. You just made it my business." Cora took a long breath through her nose. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. More dangerous. "Stay away from Benji. Do your job. Clean the house, but stop pretending to be a savior." She turned, her heels striking the marble. Emily stayed there, her fingers tight around the railing. "We made him laugh, Nancy," she whispered to the broom afterward. "And now that's wrong? Nancy didn't reply, but she also didn't fall. Small victories. The next day, Emily found out. Margaret pulled her aside the second she arrived, worry in her eyes. "Mr. Sheffield left a message," she said, lowering her voice. "He asked that you limit your interaction with Benji." Emily felt something cold run down her spine. Limit how? Do your job. But if he shows up, don't encourage him. Don't encourage, Emily repeated, her voice coming out hollow. Margaret placed a hand on her arm. "I know you mean well, but this family has rules. And Mr. Sheffield, he protects that boy with everything he has." Emily nodded, because there was nothing to say. She spent the rest of the day cleaning in silence. And when Benji appeared, because he always appeared, she smiled, waved, but didn't take Larry out of her pocket. No voices, no acting, just cleaning. And Benji stayed there, 3 steps away, waiting for something that wasn't going to happen. When Emily finished her shift and put the card away, she looked at Larry, still tucked in the apron pocket. "We did the right thing," she whispered. "Why does it feel so wrong?" Larry didn't answer. But that night, in the second-floor office, Noah Sheffield sat in the dark, a glass of untouched drink on the table beside him. He had heard the sound. That sound he hadn't heard in 2 years. That sound that had died with Sarah on that terrible day he never managed to forget. His son had laughed, and Noah had told it to stop. Because if he let it continue, if he let that chaotic woman slip into the cracks of the armor he had built, what else would fall apart? Emily had decided to be invisible today. Show up, clean, leave. No noise, no Larry, no problems. It lasted 12 minutes. Because that was when she heard the whimper coming from Benji's room. The morning had started with her arriving early, her eyes still puffy from a bad night's sleep. She had seen Noah from a distance, standing at the office window, his posture so rigid it looked carved from marble. He hadn't looked down, hadn't moved. He had simply existed there, like a statue of guilt and control. Emily had looked away, put on the apron, grabbed the cart. "Today we're professional," she had whispered to Nancy. "No drama, no Larry, just cleaning." Nancy had agreed in silence. And then, that sound, soft, muffled, coming from the second floor. Emily dropped the cloth, went up the stairs, stopped at the half-open door of Benji's room. He was sitting on the floor, surrounded by stuffed dinosaurs, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Margaret was crouched beside him, her voice gentle and useless. "Come on, dear. You need to get dressed. Your father will be worried." Benji shook his head. Tears rolled down without a sound. "Benji, please." Emily knocked on the door, soft, twice. Margaret looked up, her eyes tired. "Emily, I don't know what to do. He doesn't want to get dressed. He doesn't want to leave the room." Emily stepped inside, slowly, 3 steps, stopped. "Can I try?" Margaret hesitated, looked at Benji, then back at Emily, and finally nodded, standing with a defeated sigh. When the door closed, Emily sat on the floor, not close to Benji. Just there, in the same room, in the same space. She picked up one of the dinosaurs, a green T-Rex with eyes that were too big. "Hi," she said to the dinosaur. "You look like you had a rough morning." Silence. Emily made the T-Rex walk across the floor, slowly, toward a pink triceratops. "Sorry," in a deep, ridiculous voice that definitely belonged to the T-Rex. "I didn't mean to scare you. I just don't know how to do this." She turned the triceratops toward the T-Rex. "Do what?" A high-pitched voice this time. "Be normal. Everyone expects me to be normal, but I don't remember how." From the corner of her eye, Emily saw Benji lift his head. "Just a little." She continued. "I pretend. Every day. I wake up, put on the right clothes, say the right things. But inside, I just want to stay here, with my friends who don't talk back." The T-Rex sat down, heavy, defeated. "Because they don't hurt me when I make mistakes." Benji moved, picked up a yellow stegosaurus, placed it next to the T-Rex. Emily felt her throat tighten. "Hi," she said to the stegosaurus, her voice softer now. Benji didn't answer, but his fingers made the stegosaurus touch the T-Rex. Just a small touch. "Thank you," Emily whispered through the T-Rex. "Sometimes we just need to know we're not alone." Benji looked at her, his eyes still wet, but something different now, something less broken. Then he took something from under the bed. A stuffed dinosaur. Smaller than the others, faded blue with one wing slightly torn. He held it for a moment, looked at the dinosaur, at Emily, back at the dinosaur, and then placed it in her hand. Emily stopped breathing. "Is this for me?" Benji didn't answer, but he didn't let go of her hand either. He just stayed there, his small fingers touching hers as if he were giving her something heavier than fabric. "Benji," Emily said, her voice breaking. "This is the best present I've ever received." He stepped back, picked up the clothes Margaret had left, started getting dressed, alone, slowly, but doing it. Emily stayed there, the dinosaur pressed against her chest, trying not to cry. 30 minutes later, she was in Noah's office. He was facing the window, hands in his pockets. He didn't turn when she entered. "Mr. Sheffield, I need to talk about Benji." "Miss Carter." He reacts to emotional sounds. Emily spoke fast before he could stop her. Not to commands, not to professionals, to people who make real human noise. Noah turned around. His face was empty, controlled. "You are a housekeeper, not a therapist. I know, but he chose me, and that has to mean something." Silence. Long. Heavy. Noah adjusted his watch. Once, twice, his jaw tight. "Thank you for your opinion." It wasn't agreement. It was dismissal. Emily nodded, turned to leave, stopped at the door. "He gave me a dinosaur today," she said without looking back. "His favorite one. I saw how he held it before giving it to me, how he decided to trust." She opened the door. "I don't know what happened to this family, but I know what I saw, a boy who can still choose hope when everyone around him chose fear." She left before Noah could respond. In the hallway, Emily leaned against the wall, her legs shaking. She took the little dinosaur from her pocket, looked at it, at the torn wing, at the faded eyes from being loved so much. "We're not giving up on him," she whispered, "no matter what they say." From the office, through the closed door, came the sound of something heavy hitting the desk. Once. Loud. And then, silence. That afternoon, Emily was cleaning the west hallway when the vacuum cleaner turned on by itself. She hadn't even touched the button. "Seriously?" she said to it. "Now?" The vacuum roared. Satisfied. Emily plugged it in for real. Started vacuuming. It worked perfectly. Quiet, behaved. And then Noah appeared at the end of the hallway. The vacuum immediately started making a noise like an airplane taking off. "It doesn't do this normally," Emily shouted over the mechanical roar. Noah stopped, looked at the vacuum, at Emily, back at the vacuum, and then kept walking. When he disappeared, the vacuum went back to normal. Emily turned it off, knelt in front of it. "You do it on purpose. I know you do." The vacuum didn't answer, but she swore it looked proud. That night, in his room, Benji lay on the bed, looking at the empty space where the blue dinosaur used to be. He placed his hand on the spot, felt the absence, and then, for the first time in 2 years, he whispered something, so softly no one heard it. But he heard it, and that was enough. Emily left work knowing she hadn't convinced anyone, but in the apron pocket was the little dinosaur Benji had given her, and she knew. That boy was asking for help in the only way he could. The question was, would someone listen before it was too late? Every rope has a tension limit before it snaps. Noah Sheffield's had been stretched by 2 years of silence, 6 months of grief, and 3 weeks of a housekeeper who insisted on smiling. It snapped on a Tuesday, at 3 in the afternoon, in the backyard. Emily had finished the indoor cleaning early. The sun was too hot to stay inside the mansion, so she went out to wipe the tables on the patio. Nancy was leaning against the wall. Larry was in the apron pocket. She hadn't planned to stay. She hadn't planned to play. But then Benji appeared. He came out through the back door, his steps as silent as always, and stopped 3 meters from her. Just watching, waiting. Emily looked around, no sign of Margaret, no sign of Noah, just her, the boy, and the empty garden. "Hi, little ghost boy," she said softly. Benji didn't answer. But he took 1 step forward. Emily sighed, looked at Larry, still tucked in her pocket. "We shouldn't," she whispered to the glove. "We promised to be professional." Benji took another step. Emily closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and pulled Larry out of her pocket. "All right," she said, putting the glove on her hand. "But only 5 minutes, and if anyone asks, you forced me." Larry appeared, looked at Benji, waved, and Benji smiled. Small, almost invisible. But there. Emily started slowly. Larry talking about the weather, about the flowers, about how he was afraid of bees even though he was just a glove. Benji sat down on the grass, watching, absorbing every word, and then Larry tripped over an invisible rock, fell dramatically, shouted, "Emily, why do you never watch where you are going?" Emily answered, "I am not walking, you are." Larry, "Details." And Benji laughed. Not a smile, not a sigh, a laugh, real, loud. The kind of sound that fills empty spaces and makes the world feel less heavy. Emily stopped, looked at him, at that little boy sitting on the grass, laughing for the first time in so long she couldn't even imagine. Again, she whispered to Larry, "Do it again." Larry tripped, rolled, complained that the life of a glove was difficult. Benji laughed louder, and that was when Noah appeared. He was standing at the back door, the perfect suit, the rigid posture, his eyes fixed on his son, on the sound he had not heard in 2 years. Emily saw him first, froze. "Mr. Sheffield, enough!" The word cut through the air like breaking glass. Benji stopped laughing, froze, his eyes wide. Emily slowly removed Larry from her hand, stood up. Noah came down the steps, each movement controlled, dangerous. "You are giving my son false hope." His voice was low, trembling with contained anger, making him believe that noise and foolishness will fix what is broken. "I'm not trying to fix anything," Emily said, her hands tight around Larry. "I'm trying." "You are a cleaning woman." Noah stopped in front of her, so close she could see the cracks in his control. "You are not his mother, not his therapist, not anything." The silence that followed was so heavy Emily felt it in her bones. Cora appeared in the doorway. Perfect, on time, as always. "Noah," she said gently, walking down the steps with the elegance of someone who knew she had already won. "I warned you. This closeness is not healthy." Emily looked at Noah, at Cora, at Benji, still sitting in the grass, his eyes far too big for his small face. She took a breath. "All right." Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "I will leave." 15 minutes later, Emily was in the entrance hall, a cardboard box in her arms. Inside, cleaning supplies, an extra apron, and Larry. Nancy was leaning on her shoulder. "We did what we could, Nancy," Emily whispered, her eyes burning. "We tried." Margaret stood near the stairs, her hands clasped, her eyes wet. "Emily, I'm sorry." "Don't be." Emily forced a smile. "You warned me. Everyone warned me." She walked toward the door, each step heavy, final, and then she saw Benji. He was standing in the hallway, 3 meters away, just watching. Emily stopped, set the box on the floor, knelt down. "Hey, little ghost boy." Her voice broke. "You will be all right, okay? I promise." Benji moved. Not 1 step, not 2. He ran toward her with an urgency Emily had never seen, bare feet hitting the marble, arms swinging, and he shouted, "Emily!" The voice was hoarse, broken from lack of use, but clear, unmistakable, real. Emily dropped to her knees. The box tipped, supplies rolled across the floor. Benji collided with her, his small arms around her neck, his face buried in her shoulder. And Emily held him, tight, crying. "You spoke," she whispered against his hair. "You spoke, Benji. You spoke." Behind them, Margaret had a hand over her mouth, tears running down her face. On the stairs, Cora stood frozen, pale, and in the hallway, Noah Sheffield stood like a statue, his eyes fixed on his son, on the cleaning woman, on the moment he had spent 2 years waiting for, and the moment he had just destroyed. Benji didn't let go of Emily. He just held her tighter, as if she were the only solid thing in a world that kept falling apart. Emily looked at Noah over the top of Benji's head. She did not say anything. She did not have to. Because in that moment, while the rough voice of a 6-year-old boy still echoed through the marble halls, Noah Sheffield finally understood 3 things. First, his son had chosen to speak. Second, he had chosen to speak for her. Third, Noah had sent away the only person Benji had allowed into his world since everything had fallen apart. And now he had no idea how to fix it. Noah Sheffield did not move for a full 5 minutes. He stayed there, standing in the cold marble hallway, staring at the front door where Emily had walked out. His son's voice still echoed. "Emily, Emily, Emily," like a ghost, like an accusation. Benji had gone back to his room without looking back. Margaret had disappeared into the kitchen, her shoulders shaking. Cora had gone upstairs without saying a word, her heels striking the marble like a final sentence. And Noah stayed there, alone, in the silence he had spent 2 years building. He did not sleep that night. At 2 in the morning, Noah was in his office, staring at the same spreadsheet for 40 minutes without reading a single line. The coffee had gone cold on the desk. The watch on his wrist kept marking time he could not feel passing. Emily. His son's voice would not leave his mind. At 3, he gave up pretending he would get any work done. He walked through the mansion, through the empty halls, through the perfectly clean spaces he had never really looked at before. He stopped in the living room, where Emily had talked to the rug. "We have an agreement, Rug," You stay on the floor, I do not trip. Simple. Noah had thought it was ridiculous at the time. Now he looked at the rug and almost expected it to answer. He went to the kitchen, where she had argued with the vacuum. Why do you dislike me? What did I ever do to you? Noah touched the vacuum. Off, silent, just an object. But for Benji, it had been more than that. He went upstairs, walked down the west hallway, stopped in the exact place where he had seen his son laugh for the first time in 2 years. The grass still had the mark where Benji had been sitting. Noah crouched, touched the floor, as if he could still feel the echo of that moment. Again. Do it again. Emily's voice, soft, full of a hope Noah had forgotten how to feel. He closed his eyes, took a long breath, and finally admitted the truth he had been avoiding since Emily Carter had stumbled into his life. She had done in 3 weeks what 6 therapists could not do in 2 years, and he had sent her away. At 4 in the morning, Noah pushed open Benji's door. The boy was awake, lying on his side, looking toward the door, the blue dinosaur pressed against his chest. His eyes widened when he saw his father. Noah stopped at the doorway, suddenly unsure what to do with his hands. Hey, he said. His voice came out rough. You cannot sleep? Benji did not answer. He only looked at him. Noah walked in slowly, sat on the edge of the bed, kept a safe distance. Do you want water? Benji looked at him. A book? Benji kept looking. Noah ran a hand through his hair. I can try singing? Benji made a face, small but clearly doubtful. Noah almost smiled. Yes, I would not recommend it either. Silence. Long, heavy. Noah looked at the dinosaur, at the torn wing, at the faded eyes. She gave this back to you? Benji held the toy tighter. She's special, isn't she? Noah said softly. Emily. For the first time, Benji moved. He nodded. Small, but clear. Noah felt something tighten in his chest. I ruined everything, didn't I? Benji did not answer, but the way he looked at his father said everything. At 6 in the morning, Cora knocked on the office door. She walked in without waiting, perfect as always, as if she had not slept only 3 hours. Noah, we need to talk about yesterday. We do not. Noah did not lift his eyes from the papers on the desk. He cried out from distress, not attachment. Cora stepped closer. What happened was an emotional outburst. It does not mean. He said her name. And that only proves she created an unhealthy dependence. Cora? Noah finally looked at her. He did not speak for 2 years, and his first word was the name of a woman who talks to brooms. Cora opened her mouth, closed it. Noah stood up, walked to the window. What does that say about us? He asked, more to himself than to her. About me? That a clumsy housekeeper reached my son when I cannot even stay in the same room with him without feeling. He stopped, took a breath. Cora stepped closer, touched his arm. Soft, calculated. Noah, you are tired, stressed, you are not thinking clearly. For the first time in 2 years, Noah said, gently moving her hand away, I think I am thinking clearly. At 8 in the morning, Noah opened the bottom drawer of the desk. Inside, a wooden box, small, old. He lifted the lid slowly, photos, letters, memories of a life that felt like it had happened to someone else. He picked up the photo on top. Sarah holding baby Benji, both laughing, the world still whole. Noah ran his finger along the edge of the photo. I ruined everything, didn't I? He whispered. You gave me this incredible boy, and I let fear win. The photo did not answer, but he could almost hear her voice. Noah Sheffield, you are many things, but a coward is not one of them, so stop acting like one. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and made a decision. At 10 in the morning, Margaret found Benji in the entrance hall. He was standing next to the box of cleaning supplies, the one Emily had dropped when Benji had run to her. There was still a bottle of cleaner on the floor, a yellow cloth, and the empty spot where Nancy had been. Benji touched the spot, slowly, as if he expected the broom to appear. Margaret crouched next to him. She had to go, dear? Benji looked at her, the big eyes, wet, but Margaret touched his face gently. Your daddy will fix this, I promise. Benji looked at the front door, at the place where Emily had disappeared, and whispered so quietly Margaret almost didn't hear. Emily. In the office, Noah was on the phone. I don't care if you have to go through the entire city, Marcus. Find her. Pause. Emily Carter, 25 years old. Worked here for 3 weeks. Pause. No, I don't have her address. That's why I'm calling you. Longer pause. Because... Noah looked out the window, at the garden where Benji had laughed. Because I need to apologize, and because my son needs her. He hung up, looked at the clock, at the photo of Sarah still on the desk, at the closed office door. Noah Sheffield had built an empire from nothing, had closed billion-dollar deals, had faced corporate sharks without blinking, but apologizing to a housekeeper he had humiliated? That was unknown territory. And for the first time in 2 years, he was afraid. But he was going to do it anyway, because Benji had chosen hope, and Noah was finally ready to do the same. 3 floors above, Cora was in her room, the phone in her hand, her fingers tight around the device. She dialed a number. Waited. "It's me," she said when someone answered. "We have a problem." Pause. "The housekeeper. She made the boy speak." Long pause. "No. Noah's going after her. I know him. He will." She stopped, took a breath. "Then we need to make sure he doesn't find her." Cora hung up, looked at the mirror, at the perfect controlled reflection, and smiled. Small, cold, victorious. The Sheffield house had 37 rooms. Noah had counted them once on a sleepless night after the funeral. 37 perfectly decorated, perfectly quiet, perfectly empty spaces. But none felt as empty as the hallway leading to Benji's room. Noah stopped at the door, his hand on the frame, his heart beating faster than it should for a man who led shareholder meetings without sweating. Before I go after her, he thought, I need to know if I can do it too. He pushed the door open slowly. Benji was on the bed, curled up in a fetal position, the blue dinosaur pressed against his chest, his eyes open, red. Noah took a deep breath, walked in. "Hey," he said softly, "can I try something?" Benji didn't move, but he didn't pull away either. Noah took that as permission. He picked up his phone, opened the music app, looked for something soft, instrumental, nothing that might scare him. He pressed play. Quietly, piano, strings, delicate as breathing. Benji closed his eyes, his shoulders tightened, but he didn't cover his ears. He didn't run. Noah felt something tighten in his chest. She was right. She was right the whole time. He placed the phone on the bedside table, looked at his son, at the boy he had spent 2 years trying to protect from the world, and ended up protecting from his own father. And then because Emily had made it look so easy, Noah tried to whistle. The sound came out terrible, off-key, like a dying bird. Benji opened his eyes, made a face, small, but definitely judgmental. Noah stopped, almost smiled. There. He didn't know what to do with his hands, didn't know where to stand, didn't know how to be near his own son without feeling like he was crossing into forbidden territory. So he did the only thing that felt right. He sat on the floor, near the bed, not close, but close enough. He didn't say anything, just stayed there, breathing, existing in the same space. The music kept playing, soft, steady. Noah looked at his own hands, at the hands that signed million-dollar contracts, that built an empire, that held Sarah for the last time in the hospital, hands that had never learned how to hold her son without fear of breaking him. A movement at the edge of his vision. Noah lifted his eyes. Benji was climbing down from the bed, slowly, his bare feet touching the floor without a sound. Noah stayed still, barely breathing. Benji walked closer, stopped half a meter from his father, looked at him with those eyes that were too big for such a small face, and then sat there, on the floor, next to Noah. Noah felt his throat tighten. Benji leaned in, slowly, cautiously, and pressed his ear against his father's chest. He was listening to the heartbeat. Noah closed his eyes, his hands trembling. He lifted one of them slowly and touched his son's hair. Gentle, as if Benji were made of glass. "Are you listening to me?" His voice came out broken, cracked at the edges. Benji didn't answer, but he didn't move away. "I'm sorry," Noah whispered. "For everything. I thought silence would protect you, but..." He stopped, took a deep breath, felt the small weight of his son against him, the warmth, the fragile trust he did not deserve. "I only pushed you farther away." The silence stretched out, long, heavy, and then so soft Noah almost didn't hear it. Benji whispered, "She hears me." Noah opened his eyes. Tears ran hot down his face. He pulled his son closer. "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I know she hears." They stayed like that for a time Noah couldn't measure. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe a lifetime, until Benji moved, lifted his head, looked at his father's phone in his pocket, pointed. Noah blinked. "You want to see something?" Benji nodded. Noah took the phone out, unlocked it, handed it to his son. Benji held the device carefully, touched the screen, explored the icons with curiosity, and then pressed a button. From downstairs, a sound echoed. Beep, beep, the microwave, turning on by itself. Benji's eyes went wide, scared. He looked at his father in panic. Noah looked at the phone, at the smart home app open on the screen. I should have explained the smart house earlier, he said. He took the phone back, turned off the microwave. Benji was still tense. It wasn't you, Noah explained softly. Well, it was you, but not on purpose. It's just technology being technology. Benji relaxed a little, looked at the phone with suspicion. Noah almost smiled. Yes, I don't trust it either. He put the phone away, looked at his son, at the eyes that finally weren't avoiding his. Should we go get her? Noah asked, gentle, hopeful. Benji blinked, processing. Emily, Noah clarified. Should we bring her back? Something shifted on Benji's face. His eyes widened, his mouth opened a little, and then he smiled, small, shy, but real, directed at his father. The first smile Benji had given Noah Sheffield in 2 years. Noah felt the world stop. Is that a yes? He whispered. Benji nodded, fast, excited. Noah ran his hand over his face, wiped away the tears he hadn't realized were falling. Okay, he said, his voice steady for the first time that morning. Okay, then let's go. He stood up, reached out his hand to his son. Benji looked at the hand, at his father, at the hand again, and took it. They walked down the stairs together. Noah holding his son's small hand, Benji holding Nancy, the broom, because he had insisted on taking her from the cleaning closet. She will want to see Nancy, Benji had whispered. Noah didn't argue. Margaret was in the entrance hall. She saw them coming down, her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. We're going to get her, Noah said. Simple, final. Margaret nodded. Unable to speak, Noah opened the front door. The morning sun came in strong. Benji blinked, but didn't step back. They crossed the threshold together. And Noah Sheffield, billionaire CEO, a man who had never begged for anything in his life, made a decision. For that smile, for that small voice saying, "She hears me," he would beg on his knees if he had to. On the upper floor, behind the lace curtain, Cora watched father and son get into the car. Her phone rang. She answered without taking her eyes from the window. They left, she said. Flat voice, controlled, pause. No. Let him look. The longer he takes to find her, the more time I have to. She stopped, smiled, cold, calculated, triumphant, to make sure that when he finds her, it's already too late. 3 coffee shops, 2 temporary shelters, and a laundromat that swore it had never heard of her. Noah was starting to think Emily had vanished from the city, until Benji tugged on his sleeve and pointed. Through the foggy window, a waitress was arguing with a coffee tray as if it had just betrayed state secrets. Noah stopped on the sidewalk. It was her. Emily Carter, former housekeeper of the Sheffield mansion, now public enemy #1 of inanimate objects, balancing 6 cups of coffee on a tray that clearly had its own plans. We had an agreement, she whispered to the tray, her eyes narrowed in concentration. Cooperation. This is a partnership. The tray trembled. No, no, absolutely not. We practiced this. We practiced. Noah pushed the cafe door open. The bell rang. Emily turned on instinct. The tray slipped. 6 cups of coffee flew in slow motion, a perfect choreography of disaster. Emily didn't even try to catch them. She just watched, arms still outstretched, her mouth open in silent betrayal. Crash. Coffee everywhere. Broken porcelain. Dead silence. Emily looked at the tray on the floor, at the cups, at Noah standing in the doorway with Benji beside him. This is not real. She blinked, looked around. Nancy, am I hallucinating again? Silence. Emily realized there was no broom there. Did I just talk to an imaginary broom? Noah almost smiled. Probably. The cafe manager appeared from the kitchen with an expression that clearly said not again. Emily, I know. She was already kneeling to pick up the pieces. Take it out of my paycheck, which is probably already negative at this point, so technically I owe you, but… Emily. Noah stepped closer, his voice firm, gentle. She froze, still crouching, a piece of cup in her hand. She looked up slowly. Noah Sheffield was 2 meters from her. Perfect suit, perfect posture, a face tired like he hadn't slept in days. And Benji, holding his father's hand, his huge eyes fixed on her. Emily felt her throat close. She stood up slowly, still holding the broken piece. Mr. Sheffield, I was a genius of chaos. Emily blinked. A complete genius of chaos, arrogant and deaf, Noah continued, his hands in his pockets as if he needed something to hold on to. Not deaf in hearing, deaf in soul. Emily looked at him, at the man who had yelled at her, who had fired her, who was now standing in the middle of a cheap cafe with coffee stains on $1,000 shoes. Was that rehearsed? No, Noah almost smiled. If it were, it would be better. Something cracked in her chest. Small, painful, hopeful. You fired me, she said. Soft. In front of everyone. I know. You said I was. She stopped, took a breath. You treated me like I was nothing. I know. His voice was cracking at the edges. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to fix that, if you let me. Emily looked at Benji, at the little boy who didn't let go of his father's hand, who looked at her as if she were the only thing that made sense in the world. Benji, she whispered. The boy let go of Noah's hand, ran, straight to her. Emily dropped the broken piece, opened her arms, caught the boy in the air when he threw himself at her. Emily, Emily, Emily. Benji whispered against her shoulder, his face buried in her neck, his hands tight on the back of her uniform, repeating her name as if he were afraid to forget it. Emily closed her eyes. Warm tears fell. She held the boy closer. Hi, little ghost boy, she whispered back. Hi. They stayed like that for a time. The cafe manager did not dare interrupt, until Emily opened her eyes and saw Noah still there, standing, waiting, his eyes wet. Can you come back? He asked. Simple, direct. Emily placed Benji on the floor slowly, but the boy didn't let go of her hand. I'm just a housekeeper who talks to objects, she said. You are the only person who made my son speak in 2 years. Emily looked at Benji, at Noah, at the cafe door where the normal world kept going. I don't know if... Noah's phone rang. He looked at the screen. His jaw tightened. Marcus, he answered. Listened. His face closed even more. When? Pause. Are you sure? Longer pause. Understood. He hung up. Looked at Emily with something new in his eyes. Concern. What happened? Emily asked. Someone was asking about you, Noah said, putting the phone away. Last night, at the employment agency. Emily felt her stomach freeze. Who? They don't know. But... He looked around. At the street, at the passing cars. They described you perfectly. They wanted to know where you were living. Emily squeezed Benji's hand without noticing. Why would someone? I don't know. Noah stepped closer. But I didn't like it. Behind them, through the cafe window, a black car stopped across the street. Dark windows, engine running, no one got out. Noah saw it, his shoulders tensed. Emily, he said, voice low. Urgent. Come with me. Now. But please. She looked at him, at the genuine fear on his face, at Benji holding her hand tightly. And then, because the universe had terrible timing, the tray on the floor moved by itself, slid 5 centimeters to the left. Emily looked down, at the tray, back at Noah. Traitor, she murmured. Noah laughed. For real, for the first time, a low, rough, surprised sound. As if he had forgotten he still knew how to do that. Emily felt something warm rise in her chest. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll go. They walked out together. Noah in front, Benji in the middle, Emily behind. The black car across the street turned on its headlights. Noah placed his hand on Emily's back. Protective. Steady. My car is over there. He pointed to the black SUV 3 spaces ahead. They crossed the sidewalk quickly. The black car started to move. Noah opened the back door. Get in. Emily put Benji inside, got in behind him. Noah closed the door and ran to the driver's side. The black car accelerated. Noah turned on the engine, backed out of the space, turned the wheel. Emily looked through the rear window. The black car was coming. Noah. I know. He accelerated. Benji grabbed Emily's hand, his eyes wide. Emily pulled him closer. It's all right, little one. It's all right. But when she looked at Noah through the mirror, she saw the truth in his eyes. Nothing was all right. And someone wanted to make sure Emily Carter did not return to the Sheffield mansion. The car skidded as it pulled into the Sheffield driveway. Noah locked the doors before he even turned off the engine. His hands were still shaking on the steering wheel. Emily held Benji against her chest. The boy absolutely silent, his eyes fixed on nothing. Noah took a deep breath, 3 times. 4. You stay here, he said, firm, controlled. I will check the house. Noah, Emily, he turned in his seat, his eyes on hers. Please, she nodded, pulled Benji closer. Noah got out of the car, checked every shadow, every corner, every window of the mansion before giving the signal. When he finally waved, Emily got out carrying Benji. Margaret opened the door before they reached it, her face pale, her hands shaking. What happened? I saw you. Inside. Noah pushed Emily and Benji into the hall, closed the door, locked it, activated the alarm. Silence. Benji still had not moved. Emily looked at Noah, at Margaret, back at the boy in her arms. "Benji," she whispered. "Little one, it's all right now." "Nothing." Noah came closer, touched his son's shoulder. Gentle. "Benji, look at me." The boy slowly turned his head, his eyes huge, afraid. "No one is going to hurt you," Noah said, each word steady, true. "No one is going to hurt Emily, I promise." Benji looked at Emily, at his father, back at Emily, and then, so quietly it was almost impossible to hear. "Promise?" Emily felt the tears fall before she realized she was crying. "I promise, little one," she whispered. "I promise." 3 days later, the Sheffield mansion had sound. Soft music playing in the kitchen, something Margaret swore hadn't happened in 2 years. Laughter coming from the living room. Real conversations, not just short orders and uncomfortable silence. Emily was in the kitchen trying to make pancakes. The pancakes were winning. "Okay, Nancy," she said to the broom leaning against the wall. "I know you aren't a spatula, but I need moral support here." The broom did not answer. "Great, abandon me when I need you most." "You're talking to objects again." Emily turned. Noah was standing in the doorway. Perfect suit, tie loosened, almost smiling. "She started it," Emily said, pointing at Nancy, the broom. "Yes." Noah stepped into the kitchen, looked at the pan, at the burning batter, at Emily holding the spatula like a shield. "You're making pancakes?" "Technically, I'm wasting pancakes, but the intention was good." He took the spatula from her hand, turned off the stove, scraped the charred batter into the trash. "You are terrible at this." Emily crossed her arms. "Wow, romantic." Noah paused, looked at her, at the spatula, back at her. "You are tolerable in other things." "My heart, melting." "Stop." He adjusted his watch, looked away, his ears slightly pink. "You make Benji smile." Emily blinked. "That is good," Noah continued, still not looking at her. "Important." "Noah Sheffield," Emily said slowly. "Did you just compliment me?" "No." "Yes." It was a factual observation. It was a compliment disguised as a corporate report. Noah finally looked at her, his eyes warm, his mouth almost curving. "Maybe." Emily smiled. Small, genuine. "You're getting better." Benji walked into the kitchen 3 steps behind Emily, as always, but this time he was smiling openly. "Emily," he said. Soft but clear. "The rug." Emily turned. "What did the rug do?" Benji pointed toward the hallway. Emily went to check. Noah and Benji behind her. The rug lay perfectly flat, innocent, angelic. Emily narrowed her eyes. "You're planning something. I know you are." "Emily," Noah began, "it's a rug. A vengeful rug. Rugs do not have feelings. His does." As if it had hurt her, the rug moved, just a small ripple, almost invisible. Emily stepped back. "Did you see that? Did you see that?" Noah looked at the rug, then at Emily. "It was the wind." "There is no wind in here." Benji laughed, loud, genuine, the sound echoing through the hallway. Noah froze. He looked at his son, at the wide smile, at the bright eyes. "He laughed," Noah whispered. "Always," Benji said, still smiling. Looking at Emily's, "Does that?" Emily felt her chest tighten, warm, painful, hopeful. "Little ghost boy," she whispered. "You're talking so much I might have to start charging for conversation." Benji shrugged, took her hand. "Okay." Noah watched the two of them, the clumsy housekeeper and the son who had returned from silence, and something inside him, something frozen for years, began to thaw. The front door opened. Cora walked in without knocking, high heels echoing, designer bag on her arm, a face prepared for battle. "Noah." She stopped in the middle of the hall, saw Emily, Benji, their hands joined. "We need to talk." "No, we don't," Noah said. Flat voice, "Yes, we do." Cora pulled papers from her bag. "Did you even look her up? She was fired from 3 jobs." Emily sighed. "Here we go." "Why?" Noah asked. Calm, dangerously calm. "For being inadequate." Cora threw the papers on the table. "Look at this. She spilled coffee on a client. 3 times. "It was the same client," Emily said. "And he was awful." "That doesn't matter. He yelled at me over a stain that was already on his shirt." Noah picked up the papers. "Read." Looked at Emily. "Is this true?" "Completely." He tossed the papers back to Cora. "Sounds reasonable." "Noah." "Cora." He stepped toward her, each step measured, controlled. "Why do you care so much?" Silence. "Because I care about you." "You care about the inheritance?" Cora froze. "I'm not a fool," Noah continued. Quiet, sharp. "I know you preferred that Benji never improved, because a child with limitations is easier to manage in court." The silence turned icy. Cora opened her mouth, closed it, opened again. "You can't prove." "Get out of my house, Noah, now." Cora looked at him, at Emily, at Benji hiding behind Emily. She grabbed her bag, turned sharply, walked to the door with all the dignity she could gather, tripped on the rug, fell to her knees. The bag flew. Papers scattered. You useless rug. Absolute silence. Cora froze, realizing what she had just done. Emily waved, smiling. Happens to everyone. Cora left, slamming the door. Benji laughed again. Noah almost smiled. And the rug? Emily swore. Moved again. Victorious. That night, the mansion finally felt like a home. Emily had put Benji to bed. Margaret had made tea. Soft music still played somewhere. Noah walked into the office alone, opened the drawer he had not touched in years, took out the velvet box hidden in the back, opened it slowly. The ring was still there. Delicate. Simple. Perfect. He never thought he would use it again. Never thought he would meet someone who made his son smile. Never thought he would fall in love with a woman who talked to brooms. Noah closed the box, put it in his jacket pocket, and made a decision. Noah Sheffield had a problem. The ring had been in his pocket for 3 days, 72 hours, 4,320 minutes. He knew because he had counted. Twice. And every time he tried to propose, something went wrong. On the first attempt, he planned a dinner. Candles, soft music, the chef preparing her favorite dish. Perfect. Romantic. Movie-worthy. Emily knocked over the candle onto the tablecloth. The fire alarm rang for 40 minutes. On the second attempt, he took her to the garden, under the stars. Poetic. The automatic sprinkler turned on. On the third attempt, he simply opened his mouth to speak, and froze, completely. Emily asked if he was having a stroke, offered to call an ambulance, checked his pupil with her phone flashlight. Noah said he was fine and escaped to the office. Now, on the morning of the 4th day, he sat in the leather chair, staring at a notepad filled with notes that would make any normal person question his sanity. Proposal Project, version 4.0, points to address, express feelings, be specific, mention positive impact on Benji, concrete data, first word in 2 years, present proposal for permanent commitment, wait for response, contingency for negative answer. He had not managed to fill in the contingency, because if she said no, Noah adjusted his watch once, twice, 3 times. The office door opened. Margaret walked in with a tray of coffee. She stopped, saw the notes on the desk. Her eyes widened. Mr. Sheffield, this is a strategy, an agenda, a structured plan. Margaret set the tray on the table, tilted her head to read better. Contingency for negative response? She looked at him. This is not a corporate merger. I know. Noah ran a hand through his hair. Mergers are easier. You have closed billion-dollar deals. Yes. Negotiated with politicians, bankers, corporate sharks. Yes. And you cannot propose to a woman. Noah looked at her, at the notes, back at her. She talks to brooms, Margaret. How am I supposed to compete with that? Margaret sighed, took the notepad, tore the page. Hey, Mr. Sheffield. She tossed the pieces in the trash. When you closed the deal with Yamamoto Industries, did you have notes? No, but... And when you convinced the board to approve the Asian expansion? That was different. It was instinct. Margaret crossed her arms. You looked them in the eye and told the truth. No papers. No contingencies. Noah stayed quiet. Emily doesn't need a perfect plan. Margaret walked to the door. She needs you. The real one. The one who still doesn't know how to show it. She left. Noah stared at the closed door for a long moment. Then he looked at the jacket hanging on the chair, at the pocket where the ring was. Instinct, he murmured. Right, instinct. He stood up, took the jacket, put it on, and left the office before he could change his mind. The problem with instinct is that it does not warn you when things are going to go wrong. Noah was halfway down the hallway, practicing his words in his head, when the phone rang. He pulled it out to silence it. The jacket slipped off his shoulder. He tried to catch it. The jacket fell. The velvet box rolled out of the pocket. Noah did not notice. He kept walking, focused, determined. 5 minutes later, Benji appeared in the hallway. He was heading to the kitchen. Emily had promised to make pancakes again, the kind that would not burn this time. Benji did not believe it much, but he liked watching her argue with the frying pan. That was when he saw it. Something small on the floor. Dark. Square. Benji crouched down, picked it up, a velvet box. He opened it slowly, curious. The ring shone under the hallway light. Small. Delicate. With a tiny stone that reflected miniature rainbows. Benji looked at the ring, at the empty hallway, back at the ring. And then he did the only thing that made sense to him. He ran to find Emily. Emily was in the kitchen. The frying pan was winning. Again. Okay, listen here. She pointed the spatula at the pan like it was a weapon. We are going to reach an agreement. You stop burning things, I stop calling you useless. Everybody walks away happy. The frying pan did not answer. Great. Silence. The favorite weapon of kitchen objects. Nancy was leaning in the corner watching. Emily swore the broom was judging her. Don't start, Nancy. You have disappointed me too. That was when Benji walked in. Running, which was strange. Benji rarely ran. Emily, she turned, the spatula still in battle position. Hey, little fan. What is that? Benji held out the box. Open, the ring shining. Emily froze. The spatula fell to the floor. She did not even notice. Benji, this is... She took the box slowly, as if it might explode. Where did you? Benji pointed to the hallway. From the floor? He shook his head, pointed more precisely, toward the office. From your dad's office? Benji nodded. Emily looked at the ring, at the boy, at the ring again. Her brain had stopped working, completely. She could hear static where thoughts should be. This is not for me, she said, more to herself than to Benji. It cannot be for me. Your dad wouldn't, he would never, we're not even. Emily? The voice came from the doorway. Emily turned. Noah was standing there, his eyes fixed on the box in her hands, his face losing all color. The silence lasted an eternity. I can explain, Noah said. You dropped an engagement ring in the hallway. Technically, the jacket dropped it, and Benji found it. It looks like he did. Emily looked at the ring, at Noah, at Benji, who was watching both of them with those huge eyes that missed nothing. Noah Sheffield. Yes, you were going to propose to me? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I had a plan. A plan, with notes. Emily blinked. Notes? And talking points. Talking points, for the proposal. And a contingency for a negative response that I could not fill out. Emily stayed quiet for 3 seconds. Then she started laughing. Not a small laugh, a real one, the kind that makes your eyes water and your stomach hurt. Noah frowned. Is this good? Noah. Emily wiped her tears. You made an outline for the marriage proposal? Margaret said it was a bad idea. Margaret was right. I know. Emily laughed again, softer this time. Her tears were now from something else. Noah stepped closer, slowly, as if she were a wild animal that might run away at any moment. I spent 3 days trying to do this the right way, he said, his voice low, vulnerable in a way Emily rarely saw. 3 days rehearsing words, planning moments, trying to be romantic. You set the tablecloth on fire. The sprinkler turned on by itself. You froze in the middle of the sentence yesterday. I was not having a stroke. I know. Now I know. Noah stopped in front of her. Close enough that Emily could see the small lines around his eyes, the dark circles of someone who hadn't slept well in days, the way he held his own hands so they wouldn't shake. I'm terrible at this, he admitted. At feelings, at showing them, at being human? Basically. Emily looked at him, at this man who ran empires but couldn't make a marriage proposal without a spreadsheet. Then do it your way, she said softly. No plan, no notes, just you. Noah took a deep breath. Once, twice, and then he started speaking. Emily Carter, you are the most chaotic person I have ever met. You talk to brooms, argue with rugs, threaten vacuum cleaners, burn every pancake you try to make. Hey, you trip on flat surfaces, you argue with objects as if they could answer. You sing made-up songs about me being grumpy. They're not that bad, and somehow, Noah held her hands, firm, trembling just a little. Somehow you brought my son back. Emily stopped breathing. He hadn't spoken in 2 years. 2 years of silence, of therapists, of specialists saying that maybe he would never. His voice broke. He swallowed, continued. And you showed up, tripping, humming, putting on shows with cleaning gloves, and he came back. Noah lifted one of her hands, kissed her fingers, gentle. You brought me back too. I just didn't realize I was lost as well. Emily felt tears falling. She didn't try to stop them. So, Noah took the little box from her hand, took out the ring. No plan, no notes, just me asking. He knelt down. Noah Sheffield, billionaire, CEO, a man who never knelt for anyone. On his knees on the kitchen floor next to a burned skillet and a broom named Nancy. Will you stay? Forever? Emily looked at him, at the ring, at Benji standing in the corner, eyes wide, holding his breath. This is, she sniffed. You're asking me to marry you in the kitchen? Smelling like burned pancake, with Nancy as a witness? It looks like it. No candles, no music, no, Emily? What? Can you just answer? She laughed, crying, laughing, both at the same time. Yes, she said. Yes, you corporate chaos genius. Yes. Noah slid the ring onto her finger. His hands trembled so much he almost dropped it again. He stood. Emily pulled him close. They kissed, soft, salty with tears. Perfect. And then a small voice cut through the moment. Is she staying? Emily pulled back from Noah, looked at Benji. The boy was standing in the same spot, eyes fixed on her, not joyful yet, something more fragile. Hope, mixed with fear. Emily crouched down, got at his level. Hey, little ghost boy. Benji looked at her, serious, waiting. This means, his voice came out small, almost fading. That you stay? Emily felt her heart tighten. Forever, Benji. She held his hands. I promise. Promise, promise? Promise, promise. And if the rug kicks you out? Emily almost laughed. Not even the rug can get me out of here. And if you burn the house down, I will learn how to cook. Lie. Okay, maybe not, but I'm staying anyway. Benji looked at her for one more second, processing, deciding, and then he hugged her. Tight, strong, as if she would disappear if he let go. Emily held him back, closed her eyes, felt his tears dampen her shoulder. Noah watched, his eyes shining, one hand on his chest as if he needed to hold his heart in place. I think he approves, Noah said, his voice rough. Emily laughed against Benji's hair. I think so too. 15 minutes later, the kitchen still smelled like burned pancake, but no one cared. Benji was on Emily's lap, his small fingers playing with the ring on her finger. Noah was sitting beside them, his arm around both, more relaxed than Emily had ever seen him. Noah, Emily said suddenly. You dropped the ring in the hallway. Technically the jacket. In the hallway with the rug. Noah paused. The vengeful rug, Emily continued. The one that hates me? That waits for me to turn my back so it can trip me. That rug. Emily, it could have hidden the ring, it could have thrown it out the window, it could have buried it under itself and no one would ever find it. It's a rug with agendas. Benji lifted his head. Is the rug bad? The rug is strategic, Emily corrected, and it let the ring be found. That is, she narrowed her eyes. Suspiciously generous. She stood, walked to the kitchen door, looked toward the distant hallway where the murderous rug lived. You're planning something for the wedding, she said to the empty space. I know you are. The rug didn't answer, but Emily swore she saw a little ripple in the fabric. Margaret, she shouted, we need a plan B for the rug at the wedding. From the office, Noah's voice, there is no plan B for a rug. There is now. Emily, for heavens. It's going to try something, Noah. I can feel it. Benji appeared beside her, looked down the hallway, at the distant rug. I protect you, he said, serious. Emily looked down at him, at the little boy who had just promised to protect her from a vengeful rug. Little ghost boy, she whispered, you are my hero. Benji smiled. Small? Genuine. I'm not a ghost. No, you're much better. She ruffled his hair. He didn't complain. And there, in that hallway that smelled like burnt pancakes with a ring on her finger and a little boy holding her hand, Emily Carter finally understood something. She had found something worth it. Even if it came with murderous rugs, frozen billionaires, and a broom named Nancy, especially because of that. That night, after Benji fell asleep and the house finally grew quiet, Emily found Noah in the office. He was looking out the window, deep in thought. Hey, she said from the door. What are you thinking about? Noah turned, smiled, small, tired, happy. About how I almost ruined everything. You almost ruined things several times. I know. Emily walked in, sat on the arm of his chair, but you didn't. Thanks to Benji, thanks to the slippery jacket. Noah laughed. Soft, thanks to the slippery jacket. They stayed quiet for a moment, comfortable, full. Noah? Thank you, he frowned. For what? For trying. Even though you're terrible at it. I'm terrible. The worst. Notes, Emily. I made notes. With contingencies. Blank contingencies. Emily laughed, rested her head on his shoulder. It was perfect, she said. In your crooked, corporate, disastrous way, it was perfect. Noah kissed the top of her head. I'm going to make a lot more mistakes, he warned. I don't know how to do this. Family, marriage, happiness. I don't know. I don't either. You seem like you do. I pretend well. Noah smiled, for real this time. So we pretend together? Emily lifted her head, looked into his eyes. Together, she confirmed. Until it becomes real. They kissed, slow, unhurried. And somewhere in the hallway, a rug stayed perfectly still. Waiting. Planning. Because the wedding was coming. and vengeful rugs have long memories. And now, finally, the Sheffield mansion had more than silence. It had a promise of burnt pancakes, arguments with objects, inevitable stumbles, and a family that, against all odds, was learning how to be a family. And if the rug had plans for the wedding, well, that was a problem for later. The veil had a life of its own. Emily was sure of it. She had tamed brooms, negotiated with vacuums, made peace with temperamental toasters, but that piece of white tulle was determined to ruin the most important day of her life. We had an agreement, veil, cooperation. The veil flew straight into her face. Margaret tried to pin it again, for the 5th time. Emily, stop moving. I'm not moving. It's the veil. The veil caught on her earring. Emily pulled. The earring came off, flew out the window. Silence. This is betrayal, Emily said to the veil. Bridal betrayal. Margaret sighed, took another earring from the drawer. Breathe, dear. I am breathing. You're hyperventilating. It's the same thing. Outside, the garden of the Sheffield mansion had never seen so much light. Candles in every corner, white flowers climbing the tree trunks, chairs arranged in perfect rows, an improvised altar under the old tree, the same one where Benji had built his secret fort. Emily looked out the window, at the people starting to arrive, at Noah on the other side of the garden adjusting his tie for the 10th time. He was nervous. Noah Sheffield, billionaire, CEO, a man who dealt with corporate sharks without blinking. Nervous. Something warmed in her chest. Ready? Margaret asked. Emily looked at the mirror. At the simple dress, no exaggerated lace or a mile-long train, just something light, white, that moved when she moved. Perfect for tripping. No, Emily admitted, but we're going anyway. The music started. Emily walked to the door that opened to the garden. She held the bouquet tightly, the veil finally behaving, for now. The doors opened. Everyone turned. Emily took the first step, tripped on the hem of her dress. Margaret held her elbow. I warned you. I know. They began walking down the grass aisle, slowly, carefully. Emily saw Benji in the front row, sitting beside the little pillow with the rings, smiling openly, not hiding, not silent, just Benji. She blinked away tears and kept walking. Noah was at the altar, perfect black suit, tie adjusted, hands in his pockets because he never knew what else to do with them. When their eyes met, he smiled. Small, genuine, just for her. Emily almost tripped again. Margaret placed Emily's hand in Noah's, whispered something to him that made his ears turn pink. Then she stepped aside. The officiant opened the book. Welcome. We are gathered here today to... The veil flew. Emily grabbed it before it covered her entire face. Noah held the other end. Steady. Continue? The officiant asked. Please, Emily said. Noah didn't let go of the veil. The officiant went on. Spoke about love, partnership, commitment. Beautiful words Emily barely heard because she was busy trying not to laugh at Noah's focused expression while holding that piece of tulle as if it were a corporate contract. And now, the officiant said, Benji will bring the rings. Benji stood up, picked up the pillow, walked to the altar with slow, deliberate steps. When he reached them, he looked at Emily, at his father, back at Emily. You look pretty, he whispered. Emily felt the tears fall before she could stop them. And you look handsome, little ghost boy. Benji shook his head, serious. I'm not a ghost, I'm Benji. Emily laughed, crying. Yes, you are. Noah placed a hand on his son's shoulder, gave it a gentle squeeze. Benji smiled and returned to his seat. The officiant took the rings, handed one to Noah. Now, he said, the vows. Noah took a deep breath, held Emily's hands, looked into her eyes. I spent 2 years trying to protect my son with silence, he began, his voice low but steady. And then you arrived, tripping on my rug, arguing with objects, singing terrible songs about me being grumpy. They weren't that terrible, and you brought sound back into my house, into my life, into me. Emily bit her lip, trying not to cry again. I don't know how you do it, Noah continued, turning chaos into love. But I'm grateful you stumbled into my life. Technically, I stumbled on your rug. Emily. Sorry. Continue. Noah almost smiled. I love you, and I promise to spend the rest of my life learning how to talk to brooms if that makes you happy. Emily laughed, crying. I accept. The officiant blinked. I haven't asked yet. You don't need to, Emily said, looking at Noah. Only him. Yes, every day, yes. Noah Sheffield. The officiant tried again. Do you take Emily Carter? Yes. I didn't finish. You don't need to. The officiant sighed, closed the book. All right, you may kiss. Noah pulled Emily closer, Slowly, carefully, as if she were something precious, they kissed, soft, sweet, perfect. The veil flew over both of their faces. They laughed inside the kiss. In the front row, Benji whispered to the stuffed dinosaur he still carried, "They are strange." The reception took place in the same garden, lights hanging from the trees, soft music playing, food, laughter, real conversations. Emily danced with Benji standing on her feet. He stepped on her more than she stepped on him, which was an achievement. "You're getting better," she said. "You too," Benji replied. Smiling, Noah watched from the side, holding a glass of champagne he wasn't drinking, just watching. Margaret appeared next to him. "You made the right choice." "I know. She's chaotic, I know. She's gonna fill your house with noise." Noah smiled. "Truly." "I know." Margaret patted his arm. "Welcome back, Noah." Hours later, when the guests had left and Benji was asleep on the sofa with the dinosaur, Emily and Noah were alone in the garden. The candles were still lit, the music still playing softly. Emily took off her shoes, let her feet sink into the grass. "My feet are done." Noah sat beside her, loosened his tie. "You danced with 17 people." "I counted 18. "You danced with Margaret twice?" she asked. Noah laughed. Low, genuine. Emily rested her head on his shoulder. "We did it." "We did?" "Without anyone tripping at the altar. You tripped 3 times on the way in. That doesn't count." "It counts." Emily gave his chest a light pat. Noah took her hand, interlaced their fingers. They stayed like that, quiet, but not the bad kind, without needing any words. "Emily? Thank you." She lifted her head, looked at him. "For what?" "For not giving up," Noah said. "On me, on Benji, on all this chaos." Emily smiled. "I'm good with chaos. I noticed." They kissed again, slow, unhurried. When they pulled apart, Emily noticed something at the mansion's entrance. The rug had a handwritten sign taped to it. "Emily, be careful." She laughed. "Who did that?" "Benji. He knows me well." Noah stood up, reached out his hand. "Shall we?" Emily took his hand and let him pull her up. They walked toward the mansion. Together. Emily looked at the rug, at the warning, stepped carefully, tripped anyway. Noah caught her before she fell. "Always," he murmured. "Always what?" "I will catch you." Emily smiled, kissed him again, and the Sheffield mansion, which had spent so long in silence, was finally full. Full of laughter, music, voices, full of sound. The sound of a family that, against all odds, finally learned to hear one another. And so our story comes to an end. A mansion that once lived in silence, now filled with laughter, hurried footsteps, opinionated objects, sensitive brooms, dramatic rugs, and a little boy who found his voice again. But now I want to know, what did you think of this family's transformation? Of Emily, the whirlwind, becoming the heart of the house, of Noah learning how to love again, and Benji finding joy where he least expected. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And tell me this too. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story? Your answer helps us create stories that are even more moving. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to receive more stories like this, full of romance, humor, and that special touch that changes everything. See you next time.